there, I'm Emma, your kettlebell coach, and right now I am in the middle of a 12-week glute growth journey. That is a mouthful. Now, this is not the way I normally train. I am usually all about kettlebells and working in power and endurance intervals. But I decided I wanted to try and grow my glutes, and there is nothing wrong with a vanity goal, let me tell you. It is fine if you have something vain that you want to work towards, and personally right now, that's growing my bum. Now, that's not the only reason. The other reason is to do glute hypertrophy, you're going to need to work with barbells. We need to get heavy loads here. And I am just not that comfortable working with barbells. Once upon a time, before the pandemic, I was in the gym. I lifted with both kettles and barbells pretty much equally all the time. But since early 2020, I've been mostly exercising at home with kettlebells. So they are where my expertise lies. No, whether you are somebody who's worked with kettlebells for 0 days or for 20 years, I can bring something to the equation for you. I can help troubleshoot exercises. I can improve your form. I can give you a new perspective on how to do it. However, I do not have that same skill set with barbells. And if I want to get better at barbells, the first thing I need to do is start using them more. So I'm growing my glutes, but I'm also really expanding my repertoire of exercises that I know how to train myself and that I know how to train with other people. Because I can teach you how to do a barbell deadlift or a barbell back squat, and I can do some basic troubleshooting, but past that, that's just not my wheelhouse. Whereas if you have a visibly perfect kettlebell squat, I can still nitpick and find leaks in your form and help to improve it so that way you can feel stronger, lift heavier, feel like you have less pain. I'm trying to expand my skill set with barbells as well. So that is why we are in the glute growth. So that is why we're in the glute growth journey right now. At the very end of this video, I'm going to put on the same outfits I did in the very first week to show you what my before looked like so we can see what the intermediate looks like here, like what I look like at the halfway point. Honestly, I don't think that there is a tremendous difference. I can see it, but we're only 6 weeks in. Muscle growth takes time. But I have learned so much. I've had a ton of fun exercising in a new way, and I'm really learning a lot about barbell lifts. So today I want to cover what my programming's looking like and what I'm enjoying. I joined a new gym, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about that because that's been really helpful for motivation and morale and just education in general. And I want to share the hiccups I've had along the way. So buckle in, I'm going to share some of that, and if you are enjoying my channel, please like this video and subscribe because it's free for you and it supports me so much. So thank you so much. And without further ado, let's talk a little bit about the programming. So we're in week 6. This programming is broken up into 3 chunks. 4 weeks, 4 weeks, and 4 weeks. Now, I took my baseline format for my programming from Brett Contreras' book, The Glute Lab, which is a general glute hypertrophy guide. I mean, it's like a 400-page, 600-page, something like that textbook, but he has some basic programming that I have used and tweaked a little bit to still incorporate some kettlebells and also serve some other goals of mine that don't necessarily align with his template. But basically, month 1 was all about glute bridging and hip thrusting. We hip thrusted 3 out of 4 days a week. Month 2 is all about squatting, and month 3 is all about deadlifting. So I was really nervous about month 1 with all of the hip thrusts because if you don't know, I have herniated discs in my lower back, and they have prevented me specifically from hip thrusting for like 5 years. And I decided I'd had enough. I wanted to get back to hip thrusting. It was something I used to do back pre-pandemic before I got hurt. And I was just really frustrated that I have helped so many people overcome so many injuries, and I have overcome so many injuries myself that it just felt like there's no reason why we can't figure this out. So I worked with my physical therapist, and around February in this year, we started on some really deep core activation exercises that, let's be honest, he's told me to do a million times before, but they're just so boring that I don't like buckle down and do them before every single workout. But I said, if I'm going to hip thrust, I am going to come up with an extensive prehab list that makes me feel like my lower spine is completely supported and stabilized. So I learned how to do those exercises again. I made him check my form to see if I was doing it properly, because even though I'm a trainer, I still need feedback too. So I learned how to do those exercises again, and I was shook. I did not have any back pain. I started super light with like 40 pounds on the hip thrust with just a dumbbell. I then worked up to a barbell with a 10-pound plate on each side, so 65 pounds. And very, very gradually, I worked up to about 85 pounds. So I spent like 2 or 3 months going from 40 to 85 pounds. That's a really slow climb on a lower body lift where we're starting so low. But I knew that my strength was ahead of where my spine could tolerate. And a lot of this programming and this journey for me is about figuring out what my lower back can tolerate and like kind of pushing up against that pain point and not getting into pain, but getting to the point where like I probably can't go any heavier. So I really took my time. And then at the beginning of this 6 weeks, or 6 weeks ago at the beginning of this program, is when I started to ramp it up a little bit. Within a couple weeks, I broke 100 pounds. And a week and a half ago, I broke 220. I'm going to put a video of it here. I was so, so proud of myself. I actually did it 2 weeks in a row. And I worked up to it. You know, I started that day at like 150, 160, something like that. My gym that I'm at now works in kilograms, and I started this in pounds, so I'm having a hard time. The kilogram amount ends up a little different than the pounds would have been. And anyways, I'll put over the screen here to correct myself if I'm wrong at any point here. But I started around like 160 pounds, you know, with those days, and then I worked up to the 220. So it wasn't like I was doing 4 sets at 220, but I did work up to it. And for me, that was such a tremendous win. I haven't lifted anything over 200 pounds in years, because at home, when I'm working with my kettlebells, which is where I've basically been for the last 4 years, is I have a 80-pound kettlebell and then a 65-pound kettlebell, and I have 5-pound magnetic plates I can put on the bottom of it. So the most weight I could lift at home was 80 plus 65 is 145, 155. The most I could deadlift or do any, I mean, like I wasn't squatting that, but the most I could deadlift was 155 pounds. So that's like the heaviest I've touched in so, so long. And then to break 200 pounds on anything, for me, that was just such a fun win. And it's totally an ego thing because it doesn't matter to anybody but me. But it did. So the first month of programming, it really got me that far. It got me to the 200-pound mark, and then in weeks 5 and 6, I got to 220 on that hip thrust. Now the programming has pivoted, and we have less of a focus on hip thrusts and more of a focus on squatting. And I'm pretty excited about that because I have always struggled with my back squat. I just don't know how to troubleshoot it very well. I can see my spine is moving and I don't know how to fix it, although I do like logically know I just need to strengthen my lower back and like strengthen my whole squat in general. The more I do it, the better it will look. So I have been working on squatting. In this new cycle, we're doing back squats, front squats, and goblet squats. So I have been doing barbell back squats, Zercher front squats, because I really don't like lifting my elbows up and front squatting like this or like this. With my shoulder issues, it just hasn't been the activity I want to conquer. So I've been doing Zercher front squats, which I'm not going to go as heavy with. Zercher is where the barbell goes across the inner elbow. I'll put a video here. And it's really hard on your elbows, so it does limit the weight a little bit. But squatting 3 times a week has been interesting. But squatting 3 times a week's been kind of interesting. I never squat that much. I don't love squatting. So it's been fun. I've also been doing a lot of pull-ups throughout this program, and I got a beautiful strapless dress for my best friend's wedding at the end of August, or beginning of September. And it is just a smidge big across the back, but it would be an expensive dress to alter. So it is Operation Make My Back Bigger. in order to fit into the dress. So the pull-ups have been serving two purposes. One, because it's in my programming and I want to get stronger at pull-ups, but two, I want my back to grow a little bit so that way this dress fits better. So that's been fun. And there is a lot of volume in pull-ups throughout the week. And I know from years and years and years of pull-ups that if I work at my maximum rep count and I'm going to do pull-ups 3 or 4 times a week, I'm going to end up with shoulder and neck pain. So I have been really holding back on my reps. I can do 10 or 11 pull-ups right now, but I'll stop my sets at like 8 pull-ups because it's just not my best friend to do the maximum I can possibly do, because I do end up getting sloppy with my form, as we all do, and then it really goes into my traps and my neck, and I'm trying hard to not end up with a locked up neck. Nobody wants that. So that's what the programming's looked like. Next month we're going to go into, or next, like after this, we're halfway through this current month, and then the following month we're going to have a lot of deadlifting. And I would say I actually think that deadlifts are my weakest lift right now of the squatting, hip thrusting, and deadlifting, in part because we haven't done it that much in this program. There's been a bigger focus on, like I said, hip thrusts and squatting. So I am kind of excited to work on my deadlift. This particular program focuses on RDLs and sumo deadlifts, and I really don't like the sumo deadlifts. I get it. They want to work your outer thighs or whatever, but I think I'm going to swap it to conventional deadlifts because I want to build up strength in a conventional deadlift. For me, that's just a little more practical. I'm short, so like a conventional deadlift is the most ergonomic position for deadlifting for me. And my goal is to break 200 pounds on the deadlift, and then my secondary goal is to hit twice my body weight, which would be 250 pounds on the deadlift. So I will keep you posted how that goes. Right now, I'm like, what am I doing? Like 95 or 110 pounds on the deadlift. Like I said, it's a really weak lift for me. I'm back squatting more than I'm deadlifting. So we'll see. Don't judge me for my weak deadlift. I have very powerful glutes, but apparently they're just not as strong. So that'll be fun to get stronger with during the next phase. So that's what's going on with my programming. I will put a screenshot of it here for you so that way you can actually see what I'm doing this month. And at the very end, I am going to release like a download of what I think would be an intelligent 12-week glute growth program based off of what I've learned. But I would not follow along with what I'm doing just yet because I'm tweaking it every week. I think there is a lot of room for improvement. So the other thing I wanted to share is that I joined a new gym, which is so exciting. A new gym opened in my area, and it's a powerlifting, strength and conditioning kind of gym. And they do classes and they do open gym. So I have been going for open gym, and they're like brand new. So it's really quiet. It's great for filming. That's all great. But it's a barbell gym. They have a few kettlebells, really not that many, and some dumbbells, but the things there are barbells. And it has been such a humbling experience because, as I mentioned before, like when it comes to kettlebells, I am an expert, and nobody is going to make me feel like an imposter and like I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to kettlebells. Even if you try, like I know better. I know the value I have and the knowledge I have when it comes to kettlebells. But I don't have that with barbells. And in like that a normal kind of big box gym, like where I was going before, even with my limited barbell knowledge, I was still had better form and was stronger than like most of the people I would encounter. So, you get kind of an ego about it. You're like, I'm really good. Because looking around, you're better than everyone who's around you. But when I walk into a space with people who actually know what they're doing, I am like a freshman on campus today at like orientation. I know nothing. The members of that gym who used to go to it when it was in a different location, they might not look as fit as me, some of them, but they are way stronger. They have better form. They know more about lifting than I do, about barbell lifting. So it's just been very humbling to walk into a space and not like be the best. And that's kind of a weird thing to admit. And I hope that I don't get any flack for that. But I think that anybody in their profession, when they kind of reach a certain point, can appreciate that you're like used to feeling like you're in charge and like you're the person who knows the most about the thing you do in your little bubble. And then you go and you're like trying to learn a new skill. And you're like, whoo, I am not as good as I thought I was. So it's been super humbling, but like incredibly fun to be a beginner again and just kind of put my ego aside and get coaching from the owner who's super smart, and like part of the membership is like you can get feedback on your form. So that's been really awesome. And I feel like I decided to start doing this program before I knew about this new gym opening, and this program couldn't have come at a better time, or this journey. I don't want to say this program, but this journey of mine couldn't have come at a better time because now I have a place where I can go and learn. And I do have a few injuries that I'm still kind of working out, and I will share that with you in a second. But I think once I'm feeling like that's no longer an issue, I might even go and take some of their beginner classes, because I'm really interested how these guys teach barbell lifts to beginners and start to learn from people who know a lot more than me, because that's really important. Like, I know the mechanics of the lifts, but how does somebody coach a group or a beginner through it? I'm really interested in that. And that has nothing to do with me growing my butt, but it is just a really cool consequence of the program, of the journey that I'm on. So I joined that gym. It's been great. I just feel like I'm totally a part of this new community, and it's so different from my old gym where I was like, put the blinders on, no one talk to me, please leave me alone. I tell my husband this place, I'm like, I'm gonna leave more time than I think I'm gonna need, because I know I'm gonna socialize while I'm there, which honestly is great for me because I don't leave the house much. I work from home 95% of the time, and I'm usually the person who is being paid to listen to your problems. So it's kind of fun to go and be in a place where I am not just absorbing everyone else's lives, and instead can just kind of socialize with people on a more equal level, as opposed to as like the service provider. So that's been really nice. The last thing I wanted to talk about is my injuries. I already talked about the back and how actually that's not been an issue, which is absolutely amazing. I've had no nerve pain, no back pain. And going into this, I had been having back pain actually for quite a while at the end of last year through the new year. And so I was nervous. I was like, is this something I can do? But I've always said my body responds really well to exercise, and the more I do, the better I feel. So I think that the back has been a good testament to that. And right as soon as my back started feeling better this winter, I developed hip pain in my right hip. And it turns out I had glute medius tendinosis and bursitis, that I treated with a single cortisone shot that actually was like a magic pill, but only for 2 weeks, and then just extensive physical therapy. And 6 weeks ago, when I started this program, I wasn't having any pain with exercise. I was having a lot of pain from standing for long periods of time and walking, and that hadn't completely gone away. But my PT and I thought that more glute specific exercise and strengthening the glutes would help the pain and not make it worse, and that's been the case. The only time I have had any real glute pain in the last 6 weeks is if a couple times I've like done, my program's 4 days a week, and I might do like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I'll travel and I won't kind of start the next week until Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if that makes sense. So I have like a full week off. And when I take that full week off of exercise, I've noticed my hip will get a little cranky. But otherwise, it's because of a lack of exercise and a lack of doing the physical therapy exercises as well, not because of the exercise. I mentioned that my shoulder got a little cranky with all of the overhead stuff, but that has totally calmed down. Unfortunately, my left knee is the most recent victim of my life. And when I was doing my last set of heavy hip thrusts a week and a half ago, I felt this jump in my kneecap, and I'll show a video of it here. Like, I really wasn't doing anything wrong. I had good form. My knee wasn't twisted or anything. And afterwards, my knee experienced some swelling. You couldn't see it, but I could feel it like on the front and the back of the kneecap. and some knee instability. I saw my physical therapist. Actually, I went to a doctor and he said he couldn't see any structural issues. So like I had to just wait and see if it got any worse because it was right after the injury or right after the incident. I don't want to say injury. And then my physical therapist said that he thinks my kneecap became misaligned and then I was lifting with it misaligned. So I've aggravated it somehow because it's very unusual to hurt something in your knee in like a hip thrust position where you're not fully flexing or fully extending the knee. Like you're working in a limited range of motion. So it's a very odd place to injure your, like an odd way to injure your knee. So because of that, I haven't done much by way of hip thrusts. They actually aren't in the second month of this programming at all. I put them back in because I was so excited about the progress I was making. And now I'm kind of mad. I'm like, had I not done that, I might not have upset my knee. So I kind of scaled a lot of the last week back, but the knee is feeling a lot better. Still a little swollen, but not unstable the way it was. Like I did a really steep, long hike 2 days ago, and I didn't even think about my knee at all. So I think we're on the way out of that issue. I do have rheumatoid arthritis, which makes my joints really susceptible to being angry and upset. And because of that, I have had an issue with almost every single joint in my body. And the haters will tell you, well, she's doing things wrong and more mobility and she's ego lifting and all this crap. That's not what it is. It happens from daily life, and it's just what living with an autoimmune issue that affects your joints is like. You can be really sensitive, and I can let those things get to me and make me stop moving altogether. But I've done that, and I know I don't feel any better, so instead I try to work around it, do physical therapy, overcome the issues, and push forward. And that is what I'm going to do with this knee particular thing. Hopefully at my next check-in I'll be like, oh yeah, it was like the shoulder where it was like 2 weeks and then it was totally fine. So fingers crossed that this is not a real issue. And that's what the 6-week check-in looks like. So now I'm going to show you the progress photos. I actually haven't taken them yet, so I can't give you any commentary, but we will switch to voiceover and I will let you know if I think you can see a change. I know I can see a change like in the mirror and in my clothes, and that's really fun for me, but I don't know. You can always notice changes on yourself where other people can't necessarily. This is a short time period that we have been working for, so the changes are not huge regardless. Anyways, without further ado, check that out, and thanks for watching. Now, real quick, I know I'm not in the same outfit, but old me is on the right, new me is on the left, and I can personally see a little bit of change in the glutes. They are looking fuller, and I can tell you that I am about an inch wider through the hip, and it is much harder to get on my elastic waist shorts that were previously slipping on, and now they are a little harder. So I'm seeing a little bit of progress 6 weeks in, but we are still early on, so remember, you're not going to see a huge change just yet.